I'm Kelsey. I have my booktube hat, and today I'm going to be doing a monthly recommendations video. Monthly Recommendations is a Goodreads group for booktubers and bloggers, moderated by Trina from Between Chapters and Kayla Rain. I'll link the group and the information for their channels below. Every month there's a new topic for us to come up with lists of book recommendations based on that topic. And this month's topic is friendship stories. So I've got some books here to talk about that I think revolve around friendship in various ways. So let's get started. Now, I generally like to use monthly recommendations to go in depth about some books that I haven't talked about on my channel before, but since if you follow my channel, you know that I just read Lord of the Rings and posted like a 20-minute response video about my first impressions to Lord of the Rings, I feel like I can't post a friendship stories video without just giving a shout out to Lord of the Rings. And if you want to hear my rambling thoughts of my first introductory experience to this story, I will include a link to that video. But I didn't really talk about this as a friendship story in that video, and it really is, and I'm guessing it's on a lot of people's lists too, so I'm not going to talk about it much here. But Lord of the Rings, yes, I did read it, and my goodness, the friendships in those books make the world go round. Now, one of the things I did mention in my Lord of the Rings video is that I really like practical protagonists in fantasy. And so that got me thinking about some books that I haven't talked about on this channel that I really enjoy that do have some practical protagonists, and those are the Witches novels by Terry Pratchett. This is a sub-series of the Discworld books. These were the first adult Discworld books I read. I had read the ones that are for younger readers when I was younger. These ones are Weird Sisters, Witches Abroad, Lords and Ladies, Masquerade, and I have loaned out my copy of Carpe Jugulum, which is the last one. These books center around a group of rural witches that consists of Granny Weatherwax, Nanny Ogg, Magrat Garlic, and in the later books, Agnes Knit as well. And while these aren't framed in a sentimental way as like friendship stories, they do center around a group of incredibly fascinating, quirky, strong women who work together, who go their own ways and have their own styles of getting jobs done, but ultimately, when push comes to shove, they all have each other's backs. The witches so far in my reading of the Discworld books are my favorite characters in the series. They live a far more down-to-earth lifestyle than the pompous Discworld wizards, but in reality they have a whole lot more real power and a much greater understanding of how to actually achieve results. Their personalities could not be more different from each other, but they complement each other in hilarious ways in these books. And I would recommend these as a great starter point for the Discworld novels if you don't know where to start. There is an earlier book called Equal Rights that's considered to be part of the Witches series, but it doesn't really tie into any plot through lines that are in the rest of these books. And Granny Weatherwax is the only one of these characters that shows up in that one, so I wouldn't consider it a friendship story in the same way that I consider the rest of these to be friendship stories. My favorites were probably these first two. Weird Sisters spoofs Shakespeare, specifically Macbeth and Hamlet, and I loved that, and Witches Abroad spoofs fairy tales. These are like two of my favorite things, Shakespeare and fairy tales, so they both tickled my fancy immensely. Lords and Ladies has fairy stuff in it, so this also takes on A Midsummer Night's Dream a bit, so I liked that, but it isn't the primary focus of this book. Masquerade takes on opera and also musical theater, specifically Phantom of the Opera, so I really enjoyed that. These are all things that I like. Carpe Jugulum was sort of more about vampires and also religion, but it was also a really great book. I read these earlier ones long enough ago that I don't remember them exceedingly clearly, so I don't think I can give you more in-depth info about the plots of these individual books. I would have to reread them. They're all kind of blending together in my mind a bit. But yes, these. So I'm only going to talk about one more book today because in monthly recommendations I really like to spend more time talking about fewer books. And in all of my monthly recommendations videos so far I have managed to talk about a Robin McKinley book because she is my favorite author. So I am going to continue that trend and talk about Pegasus by Robin McKinley. I'm going to forewarn you that I have some trepidation about recommending this book because I know that a lot of people on BookTube or on bookish internet, social media, get really frustrated with incompleted series when we don't know when and if the series is going to be completed. And Pegasus is meant to be the first in a trilogy. It does end on a cliffhanger. I gather that McKinley was working on the next books, but then she was also working on Shadows, and she published Shadows. And then her husband, Peter Dickinson, who was also a writer, was very ill and in declining health for a couple of years, and then he passed away in December. So she's obviously not in a position in her life where anyone can be demanding that she finish a trilogy right now. So right now I accept this as the sort of incompleted thing that it is, and if we ever get the second book it will be wonderful, but I am making no demands. This is sort of a return to the fairy tale kingdom type books that McKinley is known for, and like most Robin McKinley books I would say this is much more nuanced and layered and interesting than the basic marketing and premise make it out to be. This is about a princess named Sylvie in a kingdom where the humans coexist with another intelligent species that is the Pegasi. These are not Pegasi of Greek mythology. They do vaguely resemble winged horses, but the resemblance ends there. And the humans and the Pegasi depend on each other for their existence. But they can't really communicate with each other because of language barriers. There's a sort of symbolic system where the highest royals and nobles of the human kingdom are ceremonially bound to an equivalent royal or noble of the Pegasi. And so Sylvie, who is a younger child of the human king, is bound to Eben, who is a younger child of the Pegasus king. And it turns out that for some reason or another they're able to truly communicate with each other telepathically. This is completely unheard of, and it seems like it should be a miracle, except that as the book goes on, it turns out that Sylvie's relationship, her friendship with Eben, is actually challenged to the status quo. So it's this unprecedented close friendship between a human and a Pegasus that this book is focused on. It sort of taps into a recurring theme in Robin McKinley's writing of being able to learn about and understand something that is fundamentally other from yourself. Their relationship is beautiful, but the events of this book are clearly only the tip of an iceberg, and we'll see if we ever get the rest of it. I'm a type of reader who doesn't really mind cliffhangers, and I am fine sitting around with just the first book in a series for a long time, so if you are like me in that regard, I would recommend picking this up. If you are not, if you are impatient with cliffhangers and you demand the second book, I would suggest waiting a few years to see if we get the rest of this series or not. So that is it for my monthly recommendations video in the month of May. I will bring you another one in June. Okay, bye for now.